Hi, and welcome to the 80th edition of Keen Minds, where we're covering NBC's The Blacklist. We're in Season 6, Episode 17, The Third Estate. I'm Jen, aka Takata Saiko.
And I'm Tessa. And this is our 80th episode. I can't believe this.
I know. And hey, with a Season 7, we'll make it to 100.
Yay! Amazing. So how did you like the episode?
It was... I have kind of mixed emotions about it, because the episode itself was good. I very much enjoyed it, had some nice twists. The writing was so much better than last week's. And I felt like everybody was much more in character and solid on that. But I also felt a little let down because we've been geared up for so long. You know, we've been gearing towards this third estate. It was supposed to be this huge thing. And then it was a red herring. And
I loved it.
I know, but I felt a little bit disappointed in that. I mean, I understand, like, it's fine. I mean, because they do so many red herrings, having the task force and even Red, you know, caught out the red herring. That's the part that I
loved.
Yeah, having them, I mean, like, I think I'm just at this point, like, give me my answers. I want my answers.
See, I know where you're getting from, and maybe because I felt that I got more answers. From where I'm sitting with my theory, I felt like I got a lot more answers than the majority of people. But I love the fact that Anna McMahon is capable of pulling one on Red.
Oh yeah, I think
that well done.
That definitely sets her up to be, what was it? Red called her a much worthier opponent or something like that. Mm-hmm. I loved that comment, must be the red hair.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, all red. Someone, I put the quote on Tumblr, and someone reblogged it with a picture of Ressler looking up in the GIF, and I was like, that's fun.
Well, he's also said, it's not the first thing that he said something about redhead. When he was locked up with Tom, he said, next time you lock me up with someone, make sure that he's a redhead with a friendly demeanor and a nice smile.
Oh.
So, yeah, not the first time.
No, Red has a thing for redheads. And so...
Yeah, but definitely.
Yeah, overall, I thought it was a really well-done episode. I have some nitpicky little things, because it's me. And... I also kind of had the same feeling. You remember back when we had the Bug Man? I'm blanking. General Shiro.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the comment that I felt like it was kind of bizarre. It seemed like it was too much of a coincidence that they were actually able to get to this guy. Like, the path that we followed to get to him seemed very much like there were too many coincidences allowing them to get there. What
do you mean?
Well, Red went to the guy in the insane asylum and said, you know, they're trying to, you know, I need to know where our mutual friend would get this. It needs to be subtle. It needs to be this. It needs to be that. Who would he go to? And he said General Shiro. Mm-hmm. And then the bug guy, who was supposedly General Shiro, was not necessarily like someone that was just up for hire. He had a very specific goal in mind, and it didn't quite match up to what was being said earlier. It didn't feel like. And I feel like the Third Estate was very much... Now, granted, they got the Third Estate from... I guess not as much of that, because they did get the Third Estate from the list, and Anna withheld it to keep it from them. So, I mean, I guess it matched up a little better. It was her intentionally leading them that way to get them away from her.
Mm-hmm. See, I never felt that with General Shiro, because General Shiro had a lab that was pretty expensive to create his super bug. So I imagine that he had been outsourcing little assassinations for a while in order to get there.
I still say that kind of stuff would have been in the news nonstop, though. People coughing up bugs. I mean, that's...
I don't think that he would have given them that bug because he just developed that one. But I'm sure there is plenty other ways of killing with bugs.
I guess, maybe. I don't... Honestly, I try not to think about bugs very often. I'm not really a fan.
I don't think anybody would. I mean, I'm sure that there is some horrendous things that you can do with bugs. I mean, they're kind of yucky diseases.
Well, they are nature's cleanup crew. Mm-hmm. So,
but I have a thing for beetles. I've always disliked beetles enormously. They just give me the heebie-jeebies. So that episode was yucky. I felt this one was well done because I love when somebody pulled one on Red, and I love that Red, instead of getting frustrated, he's like, oh, this is so much more fun.
Well, I mean, it was kind of like, kind of like when his mentor pulled one on him, and he said, all right, take the picture, you know.
I've always never been convinced that he actually did not have
I'm not either.
half of the gold. Yeah.
I'm not either. But still, I'm saying, if we take it at what we've seen in canon and what's, take our theories out of it, take, our readings out of it, and what we were presented with canon, it's the same general thing of, oh, well, okay, someone actually got one over on me. I'm proud.
Yeah. Oh, this is fun. Now I have a worthy adversary that they can be fun to do.
Red is an incredibly intelligent human being that is always, 4 or 5 steps ahead of everybody else. To be fair, that has to get boring at points. Mm-hmm. I mean...
Yeah. So, as I said, I never tire of being right. When have I been wrong? My knowledge of human psychology amazes even me. Yeah, he's also not shy about singing his own praises.
I do have to wonder though. Now some of the kids that were involved in it, I did like the twist that it was nobody was the kids weren't getting killed. They were the ones more or less orchestrating the kidnapping, quote unquote kidnappings. Mm-hmm. But in some of them, I mean, that's very much a thing that, if they have something against their parents, they don't match up well, that they're trying to stick one to the man in many ways.
It was?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Oh, I didn't get that idea at all.
Well, then were you getting the fact that there were so many of the children there that were supposedly either dead or having been kidnapped?
No. I got that. I got that as soon as they killed that kid. I said, he's not dead.
Yeah, it was staged. It was very staged, yeah. But they were.
Plus,
I mean, they were taking orders. They were taking orders from the guy that Reddington was shooting the pillow out of. And by the way, that guy would not have been able to hear a thing after that first shot. His left eardrum would have been blown, and then the second shot would have blown the right one. That close to his face. I was like, well, someone didn't know anything about guns.
Or I guess you get very good of reading lips when you have a gun in your face. Yeah,
maybe. But yeah, I got the impression that he was the one giving the orders down, and the assumption is the only thing that would make sense to me is that the kids were going along with it because basically they were going to make Daddy pay, literally, and get one over on him. And so, I mean, that was what I had the blonde kid that ended up going to and getting questioned in the post office. They said, you knew your father wasn't going to pay. You didn't feel like he wanted, cared if you came home or not. And so this is the path you took. I didn't get that impression with the girl at the racetrack, though, who was apparently involved in it and just hadn't been, quote unquote, kidnapped yet. I mean, she seemed very much like the epitome of the trust fund baby, spoiled brat, I mean, if she was playing a part, then she was playing it really well. And so I'm trying to figure out how someone like her would have been involved and, where the other kids fell.
I felt it was a different thing. I couldn't tell. I have a feeling this might come back. Even though the kids, because they were sending the money to someone, but So it wasn't for them. So I had a feeling that these kids are somehow involved in this whole thing. I think that Anna McMahon doesn't know, and he chose that one just to give them. Because I also got the impression that the father who refused to pay the ransom was on it. When the son comes out and they cross in this, he's being led by in handcuffs, and the father is there, and they exchanges a look. The father had this tiny, tiny little smile on his face.
See, I didn't get that at all.
I watched it again because he was like, is that really there? But I gotta say, even on a second rewatch, I saw it there. So I don't know. I think that the father is somehow involved in that. I think that his job was to make everybody else pay because, hey, look what happened to my kid. So I had a feeling that the father and the son were both in there.
But he talked the other family out of it. I mean, he was the one that pushed for them not to pay anything. So how would that fit in?
But they paid. He trusted them not to work with the FBI, not to pay.
No,
he said,
he
you
told
have
them
to pay.
not to pay. He was telling them not to pay.
Yeah, and then they talk and they say, we're going to do everything. We just don't want you in there. One of the things that I like about this episode was that we finally get Aram in the field without Samar. And I love the way that they got him to be so. He's like, I don't care if I die. I don't care. I mean, now has that attitude that Red had. I got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And so when I'm going for something, I'm going 100%. And I love to see that.
Yeah. And by the way, I'd just like to say, whatever, skills training Aram went through, he learned some hand-to-hand combat skills there. I mean, he was going to town with that guy.
Yep. And he ended up with a gun.
Yeah, and our little nerds growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a fun thing.
I really liked what they did with Aram there. I mean, they allowed him to lean into what he's good at, with going in and looking into the systems and everything, but also allowed him to shine, like you just said, in field work. And so no problem with lying about it, no problem with getting in and getting his hands dirty. No fear of death. It's definitely a shift for Aram.
Yeah. So I don't know exactly where we would land. I mean, what do the kids know? I guess that's a matter for another episode if they're going to retake that. Or it may have been just a very well done red herring by Anna. I found interesting that Anna McMahon boss seemed to be the Secret Service guy who seemed to have a very lowly job. But he seems to be pulling the shots over her.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the Secret Service guy is the president's right-hand man. And so, because Diaz, and I don't remember the Secret Service guy's name. I think they've given it once, because it was on IMDb, but I can't recall it right now.
Me neither.
But, I mean, they were, the way that they were talking a few episodes ago struck me as they don't really trust Anna. Not fully, but they do trust each other. And so I get the impression, that the Secret Service guy is Diaz's fixer. That he's his go-to guy. And regardless, I mean, and I may be wrong. He may be the one pulling the strings. I mean, it may be that Anna and this guy are involved with the Cabal or what have you, whoever's behind the scenes here.
Who do you think it is?
I think it's the Cabal, because I think that has been quiet for far too long, and it's too big of a looming matter that has too many unresolved, supposedly, hanging threads to not get tied up. If they don't go back to the Cabal by the end of the 7th season, I'm going to be both very angry and very frustrated with them.
I think that they're going right there.
I can't imagine they won't. There are just way too many hanging threads from that I think that they'll tie up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes back to the fact that the pacing on this show is different than the pacing on any other television show you'll find. It has more of a feature sort of pacing to it except for the fact that it's 7 seasons worth of one long feature. That's a very long movie. But I mean, you have to wait a little bit longer where normal TV shows will wrap up a storyline much quicker. Blacklist has always looked like they're leaving things wide open. And so, I mean, there are some things that I have no faith that they'll go back to, mostly because they killed the character whose story it is, so I don't think they will. But things like the Cabal, I have every faith in them that they'll go back to it, and we'll see more on it. So that's my personal opinion, is I think that if it's Anna working for them, if it's the Secret Service guy, if it's Diaz, whoever it is, I think it's the Cabal pulling the strings.
Me too. I think that there is no way that we're not going back there. Boy, Cooper had a couple of nice moments there.
He did. I loved him taking the phone away from the HRT?
The SWAT guy?
Yeah. And the guy, are you sure that was the right move? I think it was the only move. And so Cooper has an incredible amount of knowledge and history in which he's built his everything he knows off of. I mean, he's been here. He's done this. He knew exactly how to handle it, and it's shown there.
So that takes us to Ressler.
I was going to say, you want to go to Rest next?
Yeah, let's go in Ressler, because Ressler has been doing quite well with the investigation.
I'm proud of him. I just don't want him to get hurt. I'm a little defensive. I feel like I'm like standing back with a bat threatening anybody that wants to hurt Ress.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's like, Ressler, don't go at Dom's. Please don't. That's not a good idea.
Well, we've seen clips of Liz at Dom's again. So I'm wondering if she's going to finally catch him in the act and he's not going to be able to slip around it and they'll go together or something. I have more faith for him if he goes with Liz than if he goes alone.
Yeah, I love the fact that his investigation into Tim Keen. By the way, Keen.
It threw me so bad when he called him Mr. King. And I'm like, I had to back it up. I was doing my rewatch this morning, and I'm sitting there, and my iPad's going, and I'm, watching it and doing stuff. And I turned around, I hit the back button, I went, did he say Keen or King? And
it's the same root. It means the same. It means king. King. So it is interesting that we have Tim King and Tom Keen. So that was, funny. I thought it was one of those details. Whenever they use a name, names mean stuff.
Yep. Typically do. I thought it was... I'm not sure how much I trust the widower right now, because it seemed like a pretty thin excuse of him calling him back with more information later. I mean, like, for one, okay, so let's say he forgot about it. Who forgets about their wife having a child that she's separated from?
I didn't buy that he forgot for a second. I think that he...
But who hides it? Like...
No, wait. I don't think he hid it. I think that he knew that the wife didn't want that name mentioned, that daughter mentioned.
Yeah, but then why call back?
Because he researched the name. He said, I looked the name, and she's a Russian spy and a traitor, and so they were... I think that was what prompted him to look up and say, listen, I found this. So do you believe that the story that Virginia and Katarina had a little tiff?
No. I think there's a reason that Virginia didn't want to talk about it. It's because the more you have to talk about it, the more you have to keep the lies straight. And so it was a whole lot easier for her to say, we don't speak anymore. Yeah, it's too painful. Don't ask, I'm not even... I was on the fence about her being dead until he talked about her being in hospice.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Well, in this show, with this episode, we're on 29 fake death. So, you know, at this point, unless I see the head explode or roll off,
I have an old friend that we used to do a lot of co-writing together, and our joke was always we could bring anybody back from the dead, reasonably so, as long as their head is still attached to their neck. And that's, honestly, this is that type of show. You can reasonably, with the doppelgangers that they've had, even if someone's on a slab in the morgue, you could theoretically bring them back, because there are enough doppelgangers, enough precedents with that, you can bring them back.
And face masks.
Well, that's right.
You're going to notice that you're going to see whether the guy is the real guy now.
I know. Are you looking for the tattoos and the scars? I don't think Cooper was quite turning Tom over there, but that's just what helps me sleep at night. So,
well, I think that there is reasons. There is reasons to think that, while not probable, it is feasible.
Definitely feasible.
Yeah, I thought that the guy was like, you have no business in running into my wife. I'm not entirely sure that she's alive, because, again, that's dying in a very convenient moment.
Yeah. But it's as old as she was, and unless he's in on it, saying that she died in hospital. Now, that's a possibility. If he found out who she was and she said, people are closing in, I need to disappear, this is the story you get to tell. Mm-hmm. That's totally reasonable for this show. Not reasonable in a lot of shows, but in this show, that's totally reasonable, because we do know that there is an actress that plays Katarina's mother, because Lottie's been posting pictures of her. But we're also getting a flashback episode, so she could come up there. So... yeah.
I think that's what it is, and definitely because we haven't seen an actress being cast, at least in the 80s, to play Katarina's mother now. So the actress that is playing her is in their 50s, so that corresponds to what she would have been in 1990. So that seems okay. That seems reasonable. But I didn't buy at all that the Katarina and her were strained. I think that they had means of communication. We learned a lot of stuff. We learned that Dom's cabin is in upstate New York. So that puts a little more one more pin in my map, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I always just assumed he was in Maryland. I don't know why I had Maryland in my head, but
me too.
But that's where I assumed. Probably because that's where Ressler's family cabin was. So.
Yeah, but the only one little detail that kept me out of, this doesn't seem like it's this close, was that when Aram went to see Red, he said he took the entire day off. Remember, Ressler said he took the day off. It's a personal day. And he went the entire day. So this is really interesting, especially if for some reason they communicate that Red had been there. I don't know how they're going to manage that. I can't wait for the next episodes. I'm super excited. And the other thing that I found extremely interesting is the fact that Virginia in that picture had dark hair. So that to me is a for those of you who believe in Katarina, Jen is not one of them. She doesn't believe in it. It's like, yep, I knew that. And there is a reason when they show us Vanessa Cruz, she starts the episode as a redhead with blue or green eyes. And then they show us taking off the wig, taking off the contacts, and then she's a redhead. I mean, it makes sense. You will not hide with the same color hair.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the show The Americans, but they're constantly switching out. I mean, it's a show about two undercover agents with the KGB back in the 80s. And they're constantly switching wigs and, obviously not dyeing hair as much just because that's more permanent. But with Katarina, I mean, she could very easily have dark hair and dye her hair and keep it that way. If she was good enough and regular enough with it, nobody'd know the difference. People
Well,
think I'm a natural redhead all the time.
Constantine traveled a lot, and she was in and out because
Mhm.
Red says she lived on and off in with Constantine. So it was easy. You do it for a couple of months. You stay there. You dye your hair. You keep dyeing it. And you think that a guy, you tell him, "Hey, I don't know, I feel prettier in as a redhead." The guy's gonna say, "How weird! Are you a spy?"
Yeah, nobody's gonna think that. I mean, just
Or I have contacts all the time. Oh, I don't know. You look so pretty to me, especially Katarina. You know, I'm sure that she would say whatever and people would believe her.
yeah.
And
But having Ressler on that path has been really good, and you've made this comment several times over because he's the one that's not emotionally. I mean, he is emotionally invested in that. Liz is his partner. He cares about her. He wants to know what's happening, but he's following the facts with this, which is getting him to where he needs to go on it. And he's probably the most likely to get there because of that.
yeah, because he's following things logically. Because at this point, Liz could have done so many things logically. Like, she had a DNA test between her and Red. She could just call the company and say, "I need a copy of the report." She could get a copy of that and compare it to the sample from Seaduke.
I mean, because to be fair, it's not like their history shows DNA tests to be incredibly reliable. I mean, because there was one buried deep in Katarina's files that showed her to be Constantine's daughter. I mean, so Katarina faked one, and then some. So why you wouldn't want to run a bunch of DNA tests and look at all of them side by side to figure out how many line up, a certain way? I mean,
Yep.
why would you just
And you had
take
Jennifer.
one?
Yeah, you had Jennifer there. How about just running a little thing, make sure that you really are sisters or half sisters,
Yeah.
and on which side, because they're maternal DNA and paternal DNA, just to make sure, that we're who we're talking about. But I think that people forget that when you're so deeply embedded in something, you don't think about those things. You're emotionally involved. They become I mean, look at Liz saying she's convinced she was kidnapped from Russia because Dom told her that she was seen with Katerina in Russia when she was 3. And she took that in, and she has never made the connection that her memories are from Cape Breton in Canada. So for her she's all those things that you're certain, like when you're a kid and you think this thing, and then somebody comes and tells you, "No, that's not true, you never lived there, you live somewhere else," and you go like, "No, I remember." No, you don't. You think you do because you're being told or whatever, but that didn't happen. So I think that Liz is easy to get emotional about these things.
What is it Constantine said back in season 4, that how unreliable a child's memories are?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's been a constant thing here. Not only was she a child, but she's also had her memories altered at least once and probably twice. That's going to leave residue. It's going to leave...
And traumatic events.
Yeah,
it's on its own. Yeah.
Exactly. It's going to leave issues with your mind.
Yeah. And she had already issues given who she was the daughter of.
Yeah.
I mean,
she came by it naturally.
Yeah, I mean, for all that people say that Katerina was such a loving mother, she actually looked very weird. Acted very weird, very distant. I mean, that scene with the bracelet seemed almost like a goodbye to me, to Liz.
People say she was a loving mom.
A lot of people say that she was a loving mom, loved her mother very much. That's a base of the Reddington theory, that somebody will give up their gender identity and go from being pretty Katarina into, I mean, Red is a handsome guy, but come on.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think we have enough reliable narration to make that claim that Katarina was a good, solid mom. I think she was a spy, and that within itself, I mean, I would say Tom was a good dad for what he was able to do. The man literally got so fixated on someone being at their door that he was downstairs and out the door before he realized, oh crap, I just left my infant daughter upstairs. I mean, that's a very much that type of character, an operative, someone they fixate, they focus, and they get the job done. Katarina, to me, in what was the episode with Kate? Rec Room, thank you. In Rec Room, I got the impression that she told Kate do not love her because she didn't want someone outdoing her.
Yeah, then a lot of people think that. I got a very different impression of that.
Yeah, you and I talked about it at the time, but I mean, that was kind of the impression I got from her, that, and I think yours was always the not to get emotionally invested so that she wouldn't make bad decisions, wasn't it? Wasn't that what you said?
Yes.
Which also lines up with, being a...
Well, it's like love without all the facts is a very dangerous emotion, because it makes you do things that you think you're doing them for the right reasons, and they end up being for all the wrong reasons because you don't have the facts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tom got himself killed because he was trying to protect Liz and get the facts, but because the person with the facts refused to hand anything over to either him, who really didn't necessarily deserve to know, or to Liz, who did deserve to know, it ended up getting Tom either killed or at least, supposedly killed.
And Red almost bit the dust because of the same thing. Secrets. Yeah. This is the theme of the past season and this season. Secrets put people in harm's way.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Katarina probably loved Liz in her own way. Just like I think Red loves Liz in his own way. That doesn't necessarily mean that it makes them
a healthy way.
Yeah, good, healthy, loving parents. It means that they are complicated people, very layered characters, and they're struggling through things. If they're good, if they're bad, things are not black and white in this show. We play deeply in the gray. So I think it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. But even that scene, I mean, do you remember that bracelet scene when she's burying the time capsule that Liz finds? Yeah. Didn't you find her odd there?
I found it odd that Liz remembered it because she had her memories wiped. And just by being there, it struck up a memory. I mean, so...
But I don't think that she had the memories wiped at all. The memories of the fire. And that, in turn, eliminated the memories of everything before. But, I mean, how many of the things do you remember at age 4?
I actually remember quite a few. My memory's a weird thing.
You're a weird woman.
I am a weird woman. I'm aware of this. I just take pride in it by this point in my life.
That's a good thing to do.
I can't remember what I had for breakfast, but I can remember what happened when I was 2 years old.
There you go. So I find it very interesting, that picture. I mean, going back to the picture, is that we're seeing a dark-haired woman. That definitely doesn't seem like Russia. That house, and I honestly, I'm getting all kind of vibes that. Do you think that? Let me put it this way: do you think that Virginia and Dom had been married or stayed together until 1990?
I don't know. I think we're going to need to know more about Virginia. Virginia's not exactly a Russian name, is it?
No, I mean, most of the IMBD has her as Lena Volkova.
Okay. But I don't know. It could be that they did. It could be that they are still married. Who knows? I mean,
I find it interesting that Dom doesn't say, you took my entire family because you it's like first Katarina and then Masha, but nothing about the wife. So I'm tending to believe that little snippet that they separated when she was in her 40s tend to be right, which would have been 1980.
Yeah, I mean, but then you'd have a very similar, if you don't look into to Carlarina, if you're like me and you believe Carla's Carla and Katarina's Katarina, then it'd be a very similar sort of situation to Red and Carla with that, you know, I loved her once and now it's more, you know, I see her more as a sister. I mean, because it seems like Dom is still helping her, or was at least when that letter was sent.
At least in communication.
It could be, and I'm going to go back to the Americans again. The storyline in the Americans was that they were Russian agents sent over undercover in America, and the two of them, it's a husband and wife duo, but the two of them didn't know each other before they were sent over, and they basically were married and sent so they could blend in. And so it could have been something along those lines with Dom and Virginia.
You still think that Dom is a Russian? Is a KGB agent, a Russian agent?
Could be. I mean, that's what we've been told. I don't see anything necessarily to disbelieve it.
How about that fake Russian agent he put on when Liz was there, but doesn't exist otherwise?
Yeah, I did notice that. He always has had a little bit of an accent, though. It was just
but more Irish.
See, you've said that, and I don't, not necessarily to me.
Mother of God?
Is that
nappies?
Strictly nappies? Yes. I don't know. It's kind of one of those sit back and wait. I'm not sold that he's Russian, but I'm also not sold that he's not
I'm going
yet.
on record to say that Dom is British, or at least a UK citizen, and that Katarina's mom is the Russian and the spy. And I think that she was the original Oleander, because a guy with a code name Oleander would be like a guy with a code name Rose. Weird. I mean, there's so many other names. At least keep your gender straight. Rose and Violet. Yeah, and Rose and Violet, one has a big mustache and the other one is like 220 pounds and about 6 foot wide, pure muscle. Doesn't quite look good. I mean, Violet and no. And Oleander is like Rose. It's the name of a flowering bush and the name of a flower. So I think that both Red and Katarina had a Russian mother married to a non-Russian father.
It's possible. I think we'll find out a lot in episode 19.
I have a kid about that. Is that the whole story will probably be given from the point of view of Dom. And that leaves us in, that's what Dom knows or what Dom says.
Well, I don't expect to know it all after 19 because they have an entire, last season to, write and film. But I do hope we're going to get, those flashback episodes tend to
advance the mythology.
Yes, we get a lot of depth with those. And so I'm very excited for next week. Very excited. Yeah,
I think that Katarina's mother left and took another identity after she faked her death, and probably was helped by her mom. I think that's when she took that identity, Virginia Lopatin. Lopatin is a Russian name, a couple of Russian cities of that name, and by the way, it means spade. So,
that's fun.
So fun things ahead. I really like the way they've taken Ressler into this investigation. And I also love the teletransportation. I mean, boy, I would like to have the Blacklist transportation methods, because he goes everywhere so fast.
I know. I'm convinced they have wormholes they travel through. Teleportation. It's real in the Blacklist, apparently. Yeah, it drives me crazy.
He was in upstate New York. He was in Illinois. It was great.
I mean, I understand that he's got a private plane, but that doesn't mean that, yeah. Anyway, it still takes time.
Let's talk about Red and Dembe.
Yeah, and Liz, because honestly, all three of them right now are very interwoven. And So what do you think about Dembe right now?
I honestly think that he did not set the appointment for Rudiger because he was afraid that Red was going to kill him, and I think that he shows up and tells Red, I it was Liz who did it, and I'm walking out of here, or he will refuse to say, I know who it is. It wasn't any of the people none of your associates was it, and I'm walking out of here. Um, I think that this is the crisis. It was interesting that, however, one of the things that he said was that up until then he had felt that what they were doing were saving the lives of innocent people, and he no longer felt that.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not like, I mean, unless the innocent people, it's hard to say because, I mean, yeah, they were by working with the task force, but maybe that's what he was talking about, or protecting Liz, as an innocent person, and depending on if Red knows that Katarina's alive and if Dembe knows. I mean, there are several people outside of just the task force does this thing. Because they are
What do you mean the task force does this thing?
Going after the blacklisters, because they're still doing that. They're still protecting innocent people by taking out. I mean, Anna McMahon made the statement. They took domestic terrorists off the streets.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so they're still making winning on that level. That they're protecting innocent people. I don't know if that's what he was referring to, if there's some other innocent person or persons that he was referring to, and we're just supposed to go to the natural, task force situation.
Mm.
Or if it boils down to,
Red is killing people now that have nothing to do, that he doesn't have to kill. And he's becoming obsessed with his secret, and I think
that tips the scales for Dembe. I mean, he is certainly
I think Smokey tipped the scales.
Mm-hmm, I agree. I mean, because then who's next? Even if Dembe is not worried for himself, he is still a moral man. He's a good man at heart, and he's been trying to quote unquote save Red's soul. And I think that he feels like he's losing himself in the process. And that's what his imam said was that, don't lose your own soul for sticking this out. This is your own personal battle sort of thing. So, and that's what I think Dembe is looking at right now is, have the scales tipped so much that he is losing himself trying to save Red, when Red may or may not be able to be saved.
But by now he had seen Tom killed, the down spiral that Liz went on, the fact that Agnes had been sent away from her mother and is growing now without both mother and father. That
honestly, I think we can look back. We can look back as far as Kate. I think he started having issues when Red shot Kate.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. He said there is no salvation for that. And ever since, I mean, Bass died because of Kate. Mm-hmm. There is this down spiral, and then when he asked Red, I mean, why can't you be honest with Liz? And he said, I don't know. And even after everything that's been lost, he doesn't know. So at this point, I have a feeling that Dembe doesn't know 100% because he told Vesco that ever since him, he doesn't trust anybody 100%. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's things that he has kept from Dembe too. But Dembe knows enough to know that the secrets he's keeping from Liz are giving Liz a lot of anxiety and driving her and giving her pain. And I think that is getting to a point where he sees what is happening is just that they're going to destroy one another.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they came close already between the way Liz went at it right after she found out Tom was dead, when she woke up and came back, I mean, they both left when Samara was in trouble to go after the bones. And Liz made the comment later. She was like, I shouldn't have done that. You know, my priorities weren't straight. And Cooper absolved her of sorts of the guilt of that in saying that he understood. Red's never said that. Red's never seemed to have an issue with the fact that he's gone that far. And we've talked
he
about
was having fun at that time.
Yeah.
It was like a game. I'll get there first.
Exactly.
And I'll give you a ride, but I won't. So see you there.
He was incredibly flippant and honestly terrible to a grieving woman. I mean, especially one that thought that he was her father. To be that kind of... That's one of the issues I've had with Red for a long while now, is how cruel he's been to her on that.
He has become, taking this God complex a little too far. I mean, it's like now he must be obeyed just because she says so. What happened to Tom? Well, he deserved it because he didn't listen to me. He died because he didn't listen to me. You know, this is adults we're talking about, not a little kid that says, well, you fell down the well because you didn't. I told you not to go there and you did. And so I think that Red, that twisted thing that Red has is that he really doesn't get the point about giving people free will, and he has taken it a little too far.
He's a sociopath.
Yeah. And I don't know that he started that way, but he's certainly becoming that way. He mentioned that every time he kills somebody, he loses a little bit of their soul. And by now he has killed associate. He has killed, he locked them all up in a freezer. When he was in 415, he killed Kate. And granted, I have my things about Kate. I think Kate was always had everything ready in case that he needed to go after Red. Again, maybe there were other ways to deal with Kate that wasn't shooting her. I think he shot her out of anger. Yeah. Same way as he shot Ansel Garrick, and he didn't learn that if you're going to shoot somebody out of rage, you have to make sure first that you actually want to kill them, and second that they are dead.
Check the pulse.
Yeah, that's a good thing, especially because when people come back with something in their eye and a bullet, they tend to be mad as hell.
Yeah, that's what I said about Smokey. That I felt like if Red felt like Smokey needed to die for it, like just shoot him and check the pulse. Don't throw him out of a plane. You know, it's...
Yeah, I mean, Red is definitely losing it, and he's always been like this, but the spiral, this seems like the Vam episode where he was drunk and making them sing. It seems like he keeps going and going, and he seems in such a great mood. You would think that anybody who have basically cheated death, he was seconds away from getting a lethal injection. And you would go and think, you know what, maybe this is my opportunity to make some changes in my life because, after all, I got my second chance. Liz told me that she loves me.
Not Red.
Maybe that's good. No, instead we're going to go on something that I know that Red knows who betrayed him. If it wasn't Liz alone, he knows she was working with Jennifer.
And that actually segues perfectly into what I was going to follow this up with. I think after this episode, we discussed last week if we thought that Red knew it was Liz or not. And you made the comment you thought that he's trying to push Dembe into telling him by basically torturing him with other people's deaths on his conscience. And as I was watching this episode Friday night, and Dembe and Liz are talking in Liz's office, the way Red walked in and asked about Rudiger right after that, I mean, it was either convenient writing or Red knows, and I refuse to believe that they are that convenient there. I think that Red knows. And
basically, he's telling Dembe in Liz hearing Rudiger is next.
Yeah. And he's playing them. He's playing them both. And he's playing this terrible game like he was with the Bones. He's gotten twisted up. He's he doesn't have the same respect for life or other people's well-beings or their, mental or emotional or spiritual health. I mean, he's gone so far and so dark at this point that, I kind of with Dembe. I'm not, it's starting to get to the point when is he coming back?
Well, I think that he has got so into like, okay, so the lives I gotta say are the innocent people, the general public, whatever it is, and meanwhile he's losing the friends. He's losing, like, he saved Cooper's life at the very last second, and Cooper saved him. Now they're even, but it wouldn't have come amiss to say thank you.
Yeah.
To hear him say thank you. Instead, Red gave a ginormous party and started cleaning house and killing people. And I understand about a lot of these things. But look, for example, there were so many people that have died in the stuff that he has done. And it's funny because when they had Kate go at him, Kate became like him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kate shot Bass.
Well, I mean, that is, I think, where we were seeing Liz go in trying to fight him, and that Jennifer said, basically, you're giving up your soul to get this, and she finally put the brakes on. And, I mean, but we saw her building her own, we joke about Red's army. She was starting to build her own army. She was starting to think like him on a deeper level than she ever did before, to the point that she was pulling it over on him. Yep. And I think... people have talked about how she's flip-flopped again. I said, I think it freaked her out. Once she finally admitted to herself, this is where I'm going with it. Everything that I do despise about this man, I'm becoming that.
Well, and we had an episode in which the daughter takes over the twisted mother, who may have started thinking, you know what, gambling ruins lives. Now you're becoming a total sociopath.
Yeah. And
because maybe, I mean, you have no right of making that decision for another family. You may not like the gambler in your life. Well, get rid of it, or don't marry him, or whatever, or her. But why would you take somebody's father or somebody's husband just because you deemed them to be a gambler and therefore unable to live?
There are plenty of people in this world that feel like they are just so much more intelligent, so much better on whatever level they think that they're better on, that they are capable and have every right to make decisions for other people. We see it all the time in every walk of life. I mean, in this show, we've seen it with Red again and again and again.
The ethicist.
Yeah,
the ethicist was making exactly that. I'm making the determination that your life is worth this so I can do the other thing.
He did it with math. Some people do it with,
moral issues,
intellectual. There are all sorts of things that people feel that they are
superior, better at determining the destinies of others.
Exactly.
And in a way, you get the good side of that. The ones that save all these people, and the in the front they didn't end up humanity. And the darker side of that is the ethicist, is the daughter taking over the gamblers, and that balance of dark and evil is and light and good. It's where we seem to be going there. I mean, Red seems to be going into this God complex.
Yeah. But, I mean, we've always seen him toy with that, in which he feels like people should abide by his way of doing things without question. He's done it with Liz since day one. Tom kept fighting back on it, and that's one of the reasons that they hated each other as much as they did for so long, was because he'd tell Tom, do such, and Tom went, I don't think so. I'm going to go do I'm going to go do the direct opposite. Thanks.
Yeah. You marry Liz because you fell in love with her, but that's beside the point. I told you that your job was to keep an eye on her, not marry her. It's like, I fell in love with her. That's not an excuse. Says the guy
I loved that comment. Are you ever going to let this go?
And so... I love what they're building in Red, and I love the fact that they build and build and build until now Red is going to be alone. And I think that it's interesting that they did it after Liz told him that she loves him, because as a diverse, I mean, Liz is not Denver. Liz will betray Red. She has done it before, and she will do it again. And when Red said, "You remind me of my mother," that's what he meant.
You mean of her mother?
Yes.
Yeah.
You remind me of your mother. She told him when he was in jail. And I think it is the betrayal, I mean, he already gave him up when he had the FBI take him and refused to work, and in the task force. He's done it a variety of times.
Yep. And I mean, that's part of what makes the relationship interesting, is the back and forth, the kind of cat and mouse. But yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting in the fact that when Kate basically took away everybody close to him, it was done by force. Right now, he's going to end up driving everyone away. He's driving Dembe away. You know, these people that are brand new to their loyalty to him, relatively, you know, compared to someone like Dembe, but you have Hetty and Vontae, and these people that are fairly new on board, they're going to start looking. I mean, what happens when Hetty finds out Smokey got thrown out of a plane? I mean, she wasn't his biggest fan, but she knew the man. She'd worked with the man. She worked well with him when they finally stopped squabbling like siblings.
And there's nothing to say that Hetty won't get her come-ups too, because she was doing the book. She had to know that something was going on.
Yep. And that's the thing, is even if they don't particularly like the person that got it, they're going to look at it and go, am I next? I'm gone. I'm done. I'm gone. You know, and that fear is going to outweigh the loyalty. And I remember Tom back in season 2.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, the silence.
The fear is his mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
The silence is his mark. The fear is like, you don't even need to know, because that fear and the silence that creates, it's his mark. You can tell where he's been by that.
Yep.
I wonder, do you think that are you now convinced that Katarina is alive?
I've been convinced Katarina's alive for a long time.
Okay. Are you also, where are you now standing in Red is her father or not?
I still flip back and forth. I mean, if they did it well, he could just have loved Katarina and loved Liz as his own, and I'd be totally okay with it.
Oh, father doesn't mean biological.
Oh, you're just talking about in general? Yeah. I mean, I think that he treats her like a daughter. I think that to him, she is his daughter, whether it's biological or not. And that's what, when I say, is he her father or not, I'm talking about biological. No, I think that he is a father figure and or biological father, what have you. I think he sees her as a daughter.
Yeah, I see both. I see that he is his daughter. I also think that she's his biological daughter, because I think that although he has been Raymond Reddington, that he has been Raymond Reddington for a long time, even if Reddington is not his name. And we got in the scene where he is about to be killed, the reason for he's taking another name. His father cast him away. I think let's talk about what they had this promo. Of course, it's a promo, so not a grain of salt. Just take like a mountain and put it on top of it. She said to him that she knows his real identity. Do you think that is she's going to know, that we know that we will know?
I think that I don't trust promos. I think that they're fascinating. I love studying them. I took some screenshots of what we see, and I think that they're absolutely fascinating. I also think that they are created to trick us, and that if you take them as God's own truth, then you are fooling yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that may be how this season ends. I know who you really are, and that means that Liz will be ahead of us for a chance. for a change, because usually it's the audience who's ahead of Liz. It would be interesting for the final season that Liz knows more than the audience. She does have a bit of things, if you really think about it, to find out who he is. She knows his mother was Russian or of Russian origin because of the food she cooked. She also knows that his father kicked him out of the house. And I guess if you were Ressler would probably start finding out things by starting to look at all the people with a mother of Russian or Russian origin and who was a missing teenager. Has a missing teenager son. And I bet that he would find them.
Yeah, but that would require Liz and Ressler to get back on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
Which they may do in the next couple episodes, yeah. Which I hope that they do. I mean, I would much rather see them go at this as a team than separately. I mean, I understand, and I am not worried over the fact that he's been going at it alone at this point, but I do feel like she needs to get wrapped in very quickly.
I mean, she doesn't own. Ressler is first of all is an FBI agent. He's the agent assigned to Reddington, and at this point, I think that if anybody has an absolute right to want to know who the heck is Red, what was the deal with Katarina Rostova, and who was framed or not is Ressler. I'm like, who is Liz to tell him to drop it?
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't blame him for doing it at all. And just the fact that people keep dropping like flies around the secret. He doesn't want to be next. He doesn't want anybody on his team to be next. I mean, well, do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it. I mean, it seems like I'm looking forward to the next 2 episodes. That is going to be very fun. For those who believe in the Katarina theater, we got a lot of little things. Among all this, there was so much plaid.
Oh, plaid.
I mean, I knew the kid was not dead. Even before they shot him, there was plaid in there, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're in it. I was like, oh, I know, you guys are all on it. I knew it, like, so it does serve. But at some point, I imagined that I would be the mouse with which the cat plays. So I guess that just because it hasn't been my turn, it will be my turn eventually. So this was like a good episode. I liked it.
No, I definitely compared to last week's. And I think that a lot of it's just, I felt kind of bummed that we didn't get, that the third estate was not as big as we thought it was going to be. If that makes sense. Like, it was not, it was a red herring.
Yeah. Dress red herring. What do you think will be who is behind McMahon in this? Do you think that this is again about to bring the United States back into the Cold War with Russia?
I think that the Cabal is the ones pulling the strings. What that means, I mean, my guess would be that there was it 2015 was when that was supposed to roll out?
17.
2017. I think they're just behind the 8 ball on this one. And so they're trying to catch up with themselves and push things into motion that got frozen up when Peter died.
Yeah, and the Cabal got debilitated because they Red exposed it. Yeah, I think so. So, looking forward to the next 2 episodes.
Yep. All right. And so you can listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube, and you can talk to us on those. I think you can leave messages, at least on YouTube and SoundCloud. But you can also catch up with us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Tumblr. And we will see you next week.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.